Alright, I'll admit it, I'm not a Star Wars nerd by any means. I've barely seen anything from the franchise. I guess I've seen A New Hope, but hey, this is Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and even if I don't know that much about the property, if it's a good enough game at its core, that should speak for itself, right? I will not fully understand what's going on here, but it could still be a good time. Let's figure out if that's actually the case. The setup here is what I would expect from a Star Wars game, considering I know very little. An empire overthrows a republic, all sorts of dudes fight in battle, and Darth Vader is on a quest to destroy a Jedi Knight, blah 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 blah. If you're expecting me to get into the nitty gritty and the details about every single character and plot point, then you'll be majorly disappointed. But I'll try my best to talk about what's going on as much as I can. As you can see, this game starts out with Darth Vader, but before I get deep into the plot, let's get all the basics out of the way first. You got a standard health bar in red, but then also a separate force energy bar in blue. This understandably gets used up whenever using force-related moves, but will still slowly regenerate itself afterwards. The controls here take advantage of both the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, with a whole slew of possible attacks. I'll admit, while the game starts off with teaching you how to use a lightsaber, throughout the game I instead heavily abuse 3 of the many possible powers: Force Push, Lightning, and lastly, Grip and Throw. I feel like those moves simply describe what they do in the name, and I'd argue that they are the most overpowered by far, since again, I've spammed the hell out of these throughout. There are certain areas you can't progress further in until you destroy a certain amount of enemies. A health bar pops up on the bottom of the screen to reflect that, and the only other times you'll see that bar is in boss fights, which first happens with this rogue Jedi. After enough attacks, fights in this game also have sections that are named Saber Lock and Force Lock. This entails moving the remote or nunchuck into the same position shown on screen, and doing this correctly enough times is the key to winning these fights. These aren't 100% perfect, they have that typical Wii Remote detection jank, but as a whole, it's not too bad. I think it makes fights a little less repetitive. Last thing I'll go over is the Rogue Shadow, the place you always go back to in between missions. Here you can customize your wardrobe, and most importantly, upgrade your force powers. As you progress and kill enemies, you rack up points that you can spend here, and you have free reign over what you want to actually prioritize, and as you can imagine, I focus on the attacks I loved spamming. So yeah, Star Wars. I guess I should probably get into the actual plot by this point. Let me just get that over with. This is supposed to take place between episodes 3 and 4. Darth Vader is sent out to kill his Jedi and does such, but he also notices the Jedi's son nearby. Instead of killing him as well, he's spared, cause I guess Vader over here senses that he's built different and is quite powerful. He takes him away and raises him as his apprentice and gets the name Starkiller. This is who you'll play as for the rest of the game. I had to dive into proper Star Wars lore to fully understand this, but I guess Starkiller's identity is initially hidden cause an apprentice is not meant to have another apprentice underneath him thanks to the rule of 2? I don't really know. All I know is Starkiller here is sent out by Vader to kill Jedis. And yeah, that's the overarching point of the game. There's a lot more intense things that happen, especially towards the end as the story hits its climax. Like yeah, Vader betrays Starkiller and there's obvious conflict there. We even get a fight with him, and then the Emperor, which is how the game ultimately ends. But as a non-Star Wars nerd, I kinda got bored of the story part after a certain point. It felt very samey the more I got into it, and it's hard for me to keep track of it all. In fact, while I'm at it, let me talk about how I feel regarding where this title stands as a whole. This game is quite linear at its core. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I could see that turning certain people off from playing this. In total, it took me 3 separate stream sessions to wrap the game up, and by the time I got to the 3rd one, I had already mentally tuned out in a lot of ways. I had already grasped the repeating gameplay loop, which is storming forward through an area, destroying gradually more intense foes, eventually approaching a boss, and attacking it until the Force and Saber Locks pop in order to score major damage and defeat yet another important enemy. As someone who isn't already invested into Star Wars, that's a majority of what I have to say about the gameplay. I think what's really saving this game is the decent enough controls and simply the Star Wars property itself. That alone keeps you engaged enough to simply keep playing the game, but I'm not sure if the game would really stand on its own if that property was removed. The linearity of it alone would turn me off from it. right after playing this, I rated it a 7, but this is the first time I actually, in retrospect, disagree with the rating I gave. For all the reasons I just talked about, why does this deserve a 7? While scripting this, I asked myself, why did I give it a 7? Did I simply give it that just because it's a Star Wars game and I felt compelled to do that? Maybe I did. I don't know. I guess in the moment I had a lot of fun just shooting people left and right, but the more I reflect on it, the more I realize this game isn't really anything special. I'm not sure how I feel retroactively changing a rating, so I'm still gonna keep it as a 7 on my spreadsheet, but I had to at least admit that to you. I'm sorry if there's any Star Wars fans out there that are enraged between that and the fact that I didn't go into the plot as much as I probably could've. But as someone who isn't that tapped into it, it's kind of a whatever game. I'm not gonna pretend that I remember the entire plot, because I didn't. I compare this in my head to Silent Hill, another game I rated a 7. I don't have nearly the same amount of confidence with this title though. There are multiple other Star Wars games related on the Wii that I'll have to play eventually. There's even a sequel to this that I don't have yet. I'll have to get that eventually. But until then, that's all I have for today. So, thanks for watching.